I first bought Bitcoin back in 2014 and have been involved in the world of cryptocurrency ever since. And over the past 11 years I've learned a lot, and today I want to share some of the most important lessons I've picked up. So let's dive in. There will always be a new trend. Case in point, some 9 years ago everybody had to buy ICOs. Today, most people don't even know what that is, and I haven't even heard mention of it for years now. But back then, people would say you were stupid not to jump on the ICO train. Then, a couple of years later, it was DeFi that everybody had to buy. Then it was NFTs, then the metaverse, meme tokens, AI coins, etc, etc, etc. And new stuff keeps popping up all the time, and it might seem like everyone is buying in. However, almost all of them will quickly disappear into a black hole, never to be heard from again. So know that it's perfectly fine to sit them all out. And I've made a bunch of different bets over the years. Some of them have made me money and some have failed. However, one thing that I've never lost any money on is Bitcoin. It just keeps on delivering year after year. So finally, I have exited all my other positions and am now just holding Bitcoin. Now this goes against my earlier strategy of diversifying my bets and hoping that one of them might skyrocket. But the thing is, we've come too far along now. You see, when I first bought Bitcoin back in 2014, it was still a highly speculative asset, and there was a lot of talk about how some other coin might very well come along and dethrone the king crypto. However, in these 11 years, I've seen 99.9% of all other crypto projects die. Granted, some are still struggling and trying their best to keep up, but if you look at which coins were at the top 10 in any given year, you'll see that it keeps shifting. Nothing stays on the top, except Bitcoin, which is still the undisputed king. And while a Bitcoin investment was once very risky, we have long since passed the point where it's now way more risky to not own Bitcoin. Every fourth year, Bitcoin value will go up, only to fall again the subsequent year. This is very basic stuff, but apparently also incredibly difficult for very many people to understand. Because even though this 4-year cycle is actually hard-coded into the Bitcoin software, and it outright tells you when you should buy and when you should sell, so many people keep fighting against it. And these people are also the oddballs who manages the rather difficult task of actually losing money on their Bitcoin investment. But if you instead just submit to the cycle, buy once it goes down and sell once it goes up, it suddenly becomes incredibly easy to get rich. So why aren't more people doing it? And yeah, I know it's fun to read articles where people claim to be able to predict the future. And it can be tempting to try to trade according to some kind of chart showing sure proof that this or that will happen. But here's the thing. For every person who makes a very convincing case of what is going to happen if this line crosses that line and that number enters this field and creates that symbol, blah blah blah, you can always find someone who will be equally convincing about the stark opposite outcome. And sure, some of these analysts might end up being right every now and then. But they will also be wrong at least as often, if not more. In fact, 95% of every person who takes a shot at trading crypto ends up losing money. 95%! That means 19 out of 20 of these people are in fact losing money. And it doesn't matter how highly praised or how many followers they have. The honest truth is that it's all just tea leaves and nobody knows because the only sure thing you can rely on is the 4-year cycle. Now, if you ever try to explain Bitcoin to outsiders and how easy it is to get rich, you'll be overwhelmed by resistance. Most people simply don't want to hear it. Even if you explicitly show how it's made you a millionaire, they still won't listen. Especially outsiders, of course, which will give you a lot of shit and loves to make up all these false claims based on nothing but their own lack of knowledge. They'll say things like crypto is a criminal technology, or that it's funding terrorism, or make up environmental issues, and other equally stupid things, all of which can easily be debunked if you are so inclined. But you should know that whenever you hear one of these fallacies, it's always a sure sign that you're talking to someone who hasn't got a clue. And even if you do present the most damning evidence that shows they are all wrong, they still won't listen. So just don't waste your time on them. They'll find out eventually. Because you'll also meet an abundance of resistance from other crypto holders who love to tell you what you must do with your investment. And even if you have been way more successful than them and made way more money, many people with less success will still have a strong opinion about how your strategy is not as good as theirs. And they will call you an idiot for not following their less successful advice. So don't waste your time on them either. And I'm not talking about volume as in mass here, but about the actual volume of people's voices. Because you should never forget that the people who yell the loudest are always the ones who have been in the game the shortest. This is just part of human nature, where people with less experience often feel the need to assert themselves more vocally, while those who have been around longer tend to be more quiet and measured, letting their actions speak for themselves. This is true in many parts of life, as it is in crypto, where those who have just read about some exciting new analytic prediction for the first time ever will have a much stronger need to tell you about it than those who have heard it all before and thus have learned to ignore it altogether. And this brings me to the final lesson, which is simply patience. This is probably the most important lesson I've gotten from the world of crypto. Because the market is incredibly volatile and prices will swing wildly in a matter of hours. So it's easy to get caught up in the excitement and make impulsive decisions that you might regret later. But those who have been the most successful in the long term are always the ones who have learned to be patient. And what this means is holding onto your investment even when the market is down and trusting the cycle. It means not getting swayed by every new trend or hype that comes along. And it means having the discipline to stick with it even when it feels like everyone else is doing something different. And this also makes you sleep better at night, because once you are patient and learn to trust in the cycles, then all the short-term fluctuations in between become nothing but meaningless noise. And even when you're in a bear year and everything is plummeting, it doesn't matter. All you have to do is wait. It's just 4 years until the next top. And if you're already in a bear year, that means it's even less than 4 years to the next bull market. So it's just a matter of waiting a year or two. That's nothing. So just sit back, relax, and watch your money shoot up every 4th year. Be patient and become rich. It really is that easy. And that was all I had for you today. You can hit the subscribe button if you want, or just go make yourself a sandwich. Whichever makes you happier.